Welcome to Egg
and Bean Podcast.
I'm Sunny.
And I'm Nathan.
And welcome to our podcast where we see if two EMTs can get through the growing pains of life.
And we put a Band-Aid on it and transport.
Yep, just transport it away. Far, far, far away.
Yep, load and go.
Well, for our second episode, I thought we would talk about hardships. We're going to get a little heavy today.
Ooh, I'm already heavy.
Not you fat shaming yourself.
It's okay. I'm doing something about it.
What are some hardships that you've been going through recently, Nate?
Ooh, so recently I started a new job, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like a job where I'm in a position of power.
Right.
And something that I've been struggling with is organization.
Right.
I've always struggled with this since I was in school, putting my papers just in the backpack like a menace.
And it's just crumpled up.
It's just crumpled up. Where's your paper? It's
and then you
in
never
there.
touch it again.
Has my name on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But something that I've been doing is I downloaded this calendar app, not the one that's on Apple, but it's easier for me to set reminders to see what I need to do. And it's just helping a lot. What about you, Sunny?
I think that with hardships, a lot of times it's easy to internalize them. And it could be something as small as, oh, I didn't do my laundry today like I said I would, right? Like super small. And I will go and internalize that to the point where I'm now thinking I'm not a good person or I'm not good enough and I'm not capable. So it just started from something really small, a small task.
Spiraled out of
and
control.
It just spirals out of control. And that has been something that I've been like working with and working on, because part of life means going through hardships. You're going to have them. It's all about resiliency, right? It's just learning to be resilient.
I wish I would learn faster because I'm going through tough times.
Well, how do you cope with that? What are some coping mechanisms that you use?
Some coping mechanisms for my hard times. So something that I could always fall back on is family, of course. They're always going to be there no matter what. But during difficult times, I feel like it's more clear who your friends are and who's just there for the good times.
Right.
You know?
Relatable. Unfortunately.
And someone that I could rely on 100% of the times is you. No matter what it is, no matter how many times you've heard the same situation, like I could always count on you. And I thank you for that.
Aww, Nate. Dear.
What about you, Sunny? Who do you rely on?
What are my coping mechanisms?
Yeah.
I have a few.
Okay.
Let's talk about the good ones. Let's not promote bad coping mechanisms here. But I will say that other than people, I have a few that I use regularly. And one of them is obviously journaling. I think people talk about that a lot with journaling, but with my brain and how it works, it's a constant stream of noise. And when I'm going through hard times, that noise just gets louder. I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but it's just a lot of noise. And journaling sometimes helps calm that noise because I'm forced to kind of
meditate.
Not meditate. Well, no, I wouldn't say meditate, but it forces me to really organize my thoughts. And the noise becomes a lot more controlled because I'm trying to write down exactly what's going on and what I'm feeling. That's one. I think, like I mentioned a bit ago, which was resiliency. I've been really trying to work on being more resilient. And I think being resilient is kind of like working on strengthening a muscle. It's something that you continuously practice and it ultimately gets stronger and stronger. So do you know what resiliency is?
So I was going to ask, what do you mean by strengthening resilience? Like, what do you do to do that?
So resilience is your ability to cope with stress, right? Or any kind of stressor. And there has been a few studies where psychologists looked at 4 major components of resiliency. And one of them was connection. And it's kind of what you were talking about earlier, which is having a support system and who you can rely on. And I'm really happy to be one of those people for you. And hopefully I'm one. I'm a support system for, you know, the other people that I love in my life. And I know that sometimes I'm not as present in people's lives because we're getting older. We have a lot of responsibilities, but I'm always happy to hear that I am a support system for people, right? But that also means you need one.
And even if you're not there like 24/7, if it's like a long time, like
right.
when we connect again, it's like nothing ever happened. It's like we were never apart.
And on top of that, another component of resiliency was wellness, and in the sense of self-care. And I think earlier we were kind of talking about how self-care sometimes is misconstrued. And, you know, a lot of times on the internet, on social media, we'll see people do self-care, and that's really cool and all. You know, the painting the nails, going to the spa. Those are all...
Treat yourself.
Yeah, treat yourself. Like, those are really great things to do, but I think it goes deeper than that. And I think it's important to keep in mind that while those things are really good to do, you should also implement self-care that is at a much deeper level, which is similar to, for example, is journaling, right? Or for me, I like to read, so I will try to set aside a day where I really do the things that fulfill my soul. And that's different for everybody. Like, what is one that fills the soul for you?
So something that I do to keep my mood up is I like to keep my hygiene up. So when my hygiene goes down, my mood goes down. And I have a face routine, like a body skin routine that I like to keep up. And it really does affect how I feel. It keeps it going.
Keeps it going?
Keeps it going.
Yeah, I think your hygiene oftentimes is a reflection of your mental state. You know, the amount of days I wear a certain shirt and how often I do my laundry, or if my dishes are being done, just overall hygiene. So that's really relatable. I think for me, another thing that really reflects my mental state is my eating habits.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've struggled with eating for a very long time. And, you know, when I'm not doing well mentally, I find it a lot harder to manage. When I was younger and my eating problems had initially started, it was my way of cope. And you know how I was mentioning bad coping mechanisms earlier? That was one of them. I think my eating problems really stemmed from me using it as a way to cope. And a lot of people do that, whether they eat too much, right? Or they stop eating because they're stressed. And when I was feeling out of control in high school for the very first time, I remember distinctly there was a point in high school where I suddenly felt as if I was no longer in control of my life anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, you know what? There's something I can control. Like, there's something I can control, which is what I eat and my weight. And I became hyper fixated on it. And it led to a bad path.
Another spiral.
Another spiral of, you know, fluctuating between not eating and then my body fighting back and my hunger signals going into hyper mode and then eating way too much and then not eating again and then eating too much. And then that ultimately led down a bad path of developing an eating disorder. And I think a lot of girls and guys out there relate to this. I think a lot of times it's more people speak about it more in terms of when it comes to girls. I don't think it's really talked about enough with guys. And I think that's also something that we really need to talk about more. And I think it's sad that a lot of men have to hide that.
And I feel like the stigma around food is a lot of people have a bad relationship with food because of like what is said. Like, you can't eat a certain type of food. Right. And it's good to have it like in moderation.
Right. And restriction can lead to binge eating a lot of times.
I think you and I have like a similar issue, but on the opposite spectrums.
Explain.
Because I felt like I would also use food as a coping mechanism, but I would overeat.
Right.
To the point where like I would throw up.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know where it came from, but it's like a bad coping mechanism to have.
Yeah, it is very bad. I think it's also something that relates to other things in terms of you restricting something too much, and then you will overdo it. Mm-hmm. And that is not just for food. I think that if you don't allow yourself to do certain things, you're just going to want it so bad. And that's why I think a lot of times you have a lot of kids who grew up in really strict families who end up binge drinking when they get to college, or just doing a lot of things that they weren't allowed to do. And it stems, for me, I think it stems from childhood. I think not learning at a young age how to regulate what I want was a huge problem later. And it was a long process of learning how to regulate myself, my emotions, what I wanted to do, what I shouldn't do, or what I felt like was, okay. And I just think it's been a long process getting here. I don't know about you, but it's been a long journey, and I think I'm having like a moment with it.
Wow. Well, Sunny, I'm so proud that I'm your friend and I can call you my friend. I'm proud that where you're at and the things that you do.
Yeah.
And you have so much on your plate, but you still get it done.
Yeah, it's been a hard few years. I think sometimes we have to focus on the positives, and that might be really hard to do at times where you're just overwhelmed. I mean, right now I'm really overwhelmed because I'm in school. I'm in graduate school. That's a whole full-time thing. And I'm in a transition period with work as an EMT.
We're doing this podcast.
Yeah. And obviously all my other content that I post, and it's just been a lot trying to juggle everything. But something I've been really reminding myself of is how far I've come. For a while in college, in undergrad, I was going through it. I don't think I've ever told you about this. So when I was in undergrad, I was going through it. I did not know how to regulate anything.
Was this before I met you?
Yes, this was before I met you.
Okay.
I met you after I graduated undergrad. Yeah, so in college, I had moved to Pennsylvania for school. It was a new place, new culture, new demographic, and I was experiencing racism for the first time because I grew up here, and it's not that prevalent here.
Yeah.
But in Pennsylvania, it was completely different. Most people that I went to school with grew up in small towns where it was 0% any minority, 100% white. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just they were not exposed or, accustomed to seeing people that weren't the same as them. And that ultimately led to my experience there, where I was constantly getting comments, inappropriate comments, racist comments. I had someone ask me if I wanted to be the first Asian that they were going to hook up with.
That's
basically.
gross.
Yeah. I think the exact
Did they think that was going to work?
Yeah. The exact words were, "Oh, I've never been with an Asian. Want to be my first?" Question mark. It was just bizarre to me because what? I don't even think I need to explain why that's bizarre. But I guess what I'm trying to get at was it was a very new experience for me. And at the time too, I had no idea what emotional regulation was. I was recovering or trying to recover from many different mental health issues that we will get into another time. But, I was going to therapy for the first time. I was seeing a doctor every month just to make sure my health was in check. And let's just say that I wasn't doing too hot.
3 out of 10?
No, it was like a 0 out of 10.
Oh.
Yeah. But I think recently when I've been going through hard times recently, I've been remembering that. I've been remembering where I was then and just reminding myself that it's been a long way and I'm just so much better than I once was. And I think for a lot of people who gets kind of stuck on what they're going through in the current moment, I think it's important to note your progress. I think that's really hard to do sometimes because you're so stuck in, oh, I've been doing so good. Why am I not doing good right now? And if you've recovered from bad thoughts or something that you've been struggling with for a while and you've been good for a period of time and then you kind of fall off the wagon, it's really easy to internalize that and be sad basically over it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have a similar experience. One of the toughest times that I've gone through was in my sophomore year of high school. I was involved like in a car accident and I was the passenger in the car accident. My vertebrae came out of place and the disc in between the L4, L5 ruptured. So I was bedridden for about a week not a week, a year.
A week. Lance forgot the entire year, said it was a week.
So I was bedridden for about a year, right?
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at your pain. I'm sorry.
It's late. I'm tired. But I was bedridden for about a week. I was in sports in school. Like I was in water polo, really active. And I feel like this is where like my relationship with food came in, that it was bad because I would binge eat because I was just in bed watching movies and my comfort was food. That's what I went to during that time. So during that year, I gained so much weight. And then after that year, I had to learn how to walk again.
Yeah.
So I was first in the wheelchair for about a year. And then I started using like a walker, like an old person, you know?
That's crazy. How old were you?
I was sophomore, so like 15, 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's young.
I was very young. And then I started walking with a cane, and just little by little, I learned how to walk again, physical therapy. And I'm proud that I am an EMT.
Yeah.
And I'm able to help other people. And
you're
like,
lifting. You're lifting.
Like 650
Yeah,
pounds.
we're lifting some. That's really impressive.
Yeah. That story is actually what made me want to become an EMT. Because when they took me out of the car, I was like, wow, that's so cool. I want to do that. Meanwhile, I'm over here like in pain.
You're about to die and all you can think about is, wow,
I want to be cool like this.
An EMT. I think that's really cool that you have a story like that, you know, where
it's my origin story.
Your what was it? Your origin villain story.
Yeah, I'm a good guy. What are you talking about?
I think we're joking about it, but that must have been a really, really hard year for you. I mean, for most of us, we don't know what it's like to not be able to walk. I have a small similar experience like that, not really, but that's a whole nother level of literally not being able to walk. I can imagine how incapable you felt.
I was depressed.
Yeah, I mean,
0 out of 10.
That's fair.
It was a tough time.
What do you have to say to people who are going through something like that?
So tough times are not forever. They're temporary. And although it may seem like they're going to last forever, usually what ends up after is ultimately better than what like it was before. Kind of like the sunshine after a storm. Right.
There's the calm before the storm.
Calm before the storm.
And then the sunshine comes out.
Sunny side up. What about you, Sunny?
I think that for me, I really just try to focus on, like you said, that it'll get better and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. All of these analogies really just point to this.
Light at the end of the tunnel. Whoa.
It's just everything points to the same thing. I think we all hear different versions of just you'll get through it. And it'll get better with time. And just like I said earlier, build the resiliency, have those healthy coping mechanisms, and you'll get through it. I mean, what I was saying earlier about me having a similar experience, not really with the car accident, but I actually had meningitis
That is
when
very serious.
I was in college. So remember the not so great time I had in undergrad?
There's more?
Yeah. So I was already mentally not well. That mental unwellness led to me doing a lot of things that were physically not great for me. And I ultimately landed myself in the hospital with meningitis. And for those of you guys who don't know, meningitis is an infection of the brain and the spinal cord. So my entire nervous system was on fire. Yeah. So I was not having a good time. I ended up in the hospital. They were in full PPE. They were covered head to toe because
so it's like the viral meningitis.
no, the bacterial.
Oh, bacterial.
Yeah,
sorry.
it was bacterial. And well, they at first didn't know. So they were just coming in with precautions, like full precautions.
Okay.
And I was bedridden because my entire nervous system was on fire.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah. And they also gave me a spinal tap. If you know what a spinal tap is.
Like an epidural?
Yeah, an
got
epidural.
3 of those.
Yeah? Oh my
Yeah.
God, me too.
No way, twins!
Wait, you had 3? Because I
got
had 3.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No kids.
That's so funny. Okay, so yeah, I had 3, but I had a spinal tap after the epidurals because they had to drain the fluid out of my spine.
Ew.
Yeah, to test it for infections. And so I had a really thick 6-inch needle stuck in my spine, and you can't move because you can get paralyzed. And what happens with meningitis is it inflates or exasperates your pain scale. So usually, obviously for me, maybe not for some people, but getting my blood drawn it's not painful for me, right? But it felt like someone had stuck a 6-inch knife in my arm.
Serrated knife.
Yes, that's what it felt like because genuinely my whole nervous system, my nerves were on fire.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine that.
after that week, I had to practice walking around the hospital. I could walk. I wasn't like, incapable, but it was weirdly hard. It was something that you think is because
you were dying.
Yeah, 1 in 10 people die from meningitis. Sometimes I blame my stupidity on meningitis. If I do something dumb, I'll go, I have brain damage, guys. I got meningitis.
What am I gonna blame it on? My back?
Well, that's not necessarily untrue.
I'm just stupid for real.
But yeah, I think the recovery period is always something to be proud of. And I remember one time you saying that after the accident, when you were able to do your first push-up, that was something that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't you have a video of the first
I do have a
push-up?
video
Yeah.
of the first couple of push-ups that I was able to do.
I think
crazy.
that's really like impressive that you could get to that point. I think a lot of people don't come back from that.
It's true. And something that the doctor told me, it's like, you're young. You could probably get through this with physical therapy and stuff. Or you can get surgery and it's 50% chance that'll make it worse. So I just took the odds and I went through physical therapy, countless like chiropractor, just trying to like jam my spine back in.
Yeah.
And it was good. I'm a lot better. My core is really strong.
Was that a hard decision to make? What was going through your mind during that time?
It was a decision that it took a while to make. Like I had to talk to my parents about it. Surgery like on your back is very scary, especially at a young age.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's going to fix it for sure. And they said in the long run, in the future, you're going to need more surgeries. So regardless of whether I got it or not, I'm going to need a surgery later on. So I was like, might as well just tough it out and just work out my core and stuff like that. So
I think I keep saying this, but I think that's so impressive. Genuinely, that's such a hard decision to make because you're 15, making a decision if you're going to get surgery that has its risks or just figuring it out.
Yeah. I told the doctor, I'm like 50-50 chance, just do it twice. That's how math works, right?
Yeah. Your math skills need a little help if that's how you're doing it. What was that one time that you were showing me your follower number and you go, Sunny, I'm almost at 1,000 followers. And the number was like 959.
959.
Because he thought that once it hit 60, it would become 1,000. He was thinking the minute scale.
To be fair, it was like 3 a.m.
Anyways, we're going to take a quick restroom break.
I really need it. I think Sunny can read my mind. Or she probably sees the sweat.
Yeah, I see the sweat. I see it's dripping down his forehead right now. And I go, we gotta take a break real quick. So we're going to take that break real quick and we'll be right back.
All right.
And we're back. How was your poop break?
I'm going to have to give that one a 0 out of 10.
Why?
I was not able to. Nothing came out. I was trying my best.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Let's manifest good poops for everybody that's listening.
Please. Take some fiber.
So we were talking about some hardships and hard times we've had. What can we learn from those hard times?
Something that I've learned is not everyone is your friend. And it's true along the board. No matter what face value they give you, it's not always going to be true.
Yeah, for sure. Can fully relate to that one.
And what about you, Sunny? I got nothing.
You got nothing?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, for me, when I was going through some hard times, for example, I'll use the meningitis fiasco. I remember a lot of things had led up to that point, and I was laying in that hospital bed just staring at the ceiling. I also couldn't see because I had rushed to the hospital without my glasses or contacts in, so I was blind.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really great. I couldn't even watch TV. But I was staring at the ceiling, and I was thinking about everything that was happening up to that point with, all the mental health issues that were going on. I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, eating disorder, PTSD.
You got it all.
Yeah, we got the Holy Trinity. But what had got me to that point, we'll save for another episode. So stay tuned. I think it's a little too heavy for this one. But during that time, I was laying down, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. Yeah, thinking about everything that had happened up to that point. And I just remember thinking, you know what? Like, what's next? I was sad, but then I got this sudden anger. And I just remember thinking, what's next? What are you going to throw at me next? I don't know who I was talking to. But I just went, what's next?
So you were also delusional.
Yeah, I was definitely hallucinating a little bit. I was also given morphine during this time, so that may or may not have been a factor.
So you were in school during this time. What happened with your schoolwork?
I was a sophomore in undergrad, and this was right before Thanksgiving break, so there were a lot of exams going on. I emailed a lot of my professors. Most of my professors were really understanding, but I had this one professor who told me that me nearly dying in the hospital was not a valid excuse to miss class.
I'm sorry.
And she gave me a C in the class because in that class, your attendance was 25% of the grade. And she gave me zeros.
So you had 100% everything else except for your attendance.
No, because when I went back, she gave me a lot of low scores on my essays because she was mad I went over her head and went to the dean.
What'd you do?
Well, I told them that it was inexcusable that she was not letting me get full points because I was in the hospital, and she was upset about it. And she graded my essays really low after that because I had got A's on my essays, and then after I got meningitis, I started getting C's.
So it was just up to her to decide
because with English, it's very subjective. It's not like math where there's a right answer.
Facts.
Right, like there's a right answer, a wrong answer. The Scantron don't lie.
Yeah.
But with essays, you would have to basically leave the grading system up to the professor. They ultimately decide whether it's right or wrong, But that's besides the point. I remember staring at the ceiling and being Like, what's next? What are you going to throw next? And I think a year later, that song that Post Malone came out with, which was, why are you laughing? I'm spelling out my deepest feelings and he's laughing.
I love Post Malone. Post Malone's my favorite artist, though.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
What song is it?
I don't want to talk about it anymore because you're laughing at me.
I won't laugh at it. Okay, I won't laugh at it. Okay, continue. I won't laugh. I promise.
You're an awful friend. Our first episode was about friendship, and now you're getting, that's being revoked. You don't get the friendship label anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll be serious. It's a really tough topic. I'll be serious. I won't laugh.
The song was 1,000 Bad Times. Why are you laughing? I don't like you anymore. You're kicked off the podcast. We're bringing in another person next time. It's gonna be Egg and Rock.
Toby.
The new improved Bean. The original Bean has been written off the show. We now have Pinto Bean. It was 1,000 Bad Times by Post Malone, and that song really resonated with me because it was really reflecting what was going on a year before. And if you guys have a chance, go listen to that song. Have you listened to that song?
I don't think so. I'm trying to figure out which song it is, but if you play it, I probably know it.
Okay, I'll play it for you later. But
okay,
for those of you guys who don't know, play that song. It's a really good song. I think the lyrics really mean a lot. And I'm not sure if it's about a girl, but I didn't make it about a girl. I really related back to
it's about me.
Yeah, but yeah, it really was. But I think in that moment, it was very, it was heartbreaking, but also impactful, because I always think back to that moment and think about, wow, I made it through that, like what else can't I make it through?
You're unstoppable.
Yeah. And I think that's how I view a lot of hardships like that we have, is just like we were saying earlier, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And if you believe in it, it'll happen.
Manifest it.
Exactly. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that one.
Yeah, and it's not all about just believing it, though. You also have to take action.
Yeah.
You have to
100%.
take action. You can't just wait for it to just come to you.
Yeah. I fully agree with that one, because a lot of times I think that people...
like, I deserve it.
But my motto is, what happened to you isn't your fault, but what you do about it is.
Wow. Yeah. Goosebumps.
That's not my line. A lot of people say this, but I really like to live by it, because you're the hero of your own story. Especially for a lot of girls, I feel like we are taught to be almost a damsel in distress, waiting for the prince to come save us because of all the stories and fairy tales that we were told and we were watching on TV, or in movies. And I think for a long time, I was waiting for someone to save me. No, genuinely, not like a prince or anything, but genuinely,
like a therapist?
I didn't feel like it was my responsibility. I didn't feel as if I needed to do something about it. And I sat there and just cried about it all the time.
Oh no, Sonia.
And but that's the thing, is it's up to you. It's up to you to figure out what you need to do. And yeah, no one else is going to do it for you. People have their own lives going on. Like, they love you and you're important, right? But they have their own stuff. They need to be their own hero, so be your own.
I like that.
Right?
Wow, that's so cool.
We should put on a t-shirt.
That's a big t-shirt.
It's a big t-shirt. No, be your own hero.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Speaking of heroes, who are your role models, Nate?
Ooh. So with me, I don't have anybody in particular. Like, I don't have somebody in mind when you say a role model. But I do take different aspects of different people or characters that I like. Like, for example, like a character in a TV show, they do something that I enjoy or that I think that is good. Or a manager, they set a really good example and I want to take that and make it a part of who I am. And I make sure to just take like the good aspects of people, and I try to make it my own.
Yeah, I really agree with that because I take a lot of inspiration from all sorts of different people that I encounter in my life, whether that's, of course, my own family or friends or athletes or celebrities, right? I think athletes are a huge role model, prominent role model for most people because being able to train yourself to perform at that high of a level is very impressive.
Yeah, like dedicate your life, like Tiger Woods dedicates his life to get a tiny ball into a hole hundreds of yards away.
I mean, like Kobe Bryant, for example, I think is a huge role model for a lot of people. I know for my brother, he really, really looks up to a lot of athletes of all different kinds of sports. And it just makes sense. But in my own life, I take, like you said, the positive traits of a lot of different kinds of people. For my dad, he's very, very focused and hardworking, right? And my mom is super compassionate and kind. I don't think I've ever heard her say a single bad thing about anyone, which, I mean, I can't say that for myself.
It takes a lot of self-control.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, especially when I was younger, talked a lot of shit, you know?
Whoa. Push that explicit button, please.
And just been not the kindest. Whether that's due to peer pressure. You know, I don't know. In high school, I think I got involved in a lot of gossip.
Were you a mean girl in high school?
I was not.
You were a mean girl.
No, I was not a mean girl. I swear I wasn't a mean girl. But I really wasn't the nicest 100% of the time. And I think because a lot of the people I was surrounded by were, you know, gossiping, talking about other people. That's very normal in high school, right? And I definitely got wrapped up in it. And definitely at first, when I remember I would say bad things about people, I genuinely was doing it to fit in. And then over time just became a habit. And I just started, it just became natural to say bad things because I initially started to fit in.
Wow. Sunny, we would not have been friends in high school.
Yeah. And I definitely over the years grew out of that. And I had to really learn to unlearn that because it was not a part of my nature. I was never that kid. If you ask people who knew me in elementary school and middle school, I was the nice, nerdy Asian girl who was good at math and gave everyone homework answers.
So you fit the whole stigma.
I did. I fit the stereotype of a little Asian girl.
Nice.
But
did you have the glasses with a thin frame?
Yep, thin frame, transition glasses, braces.
I have transitions now.
Yep. The side part, I had the plaid cargo shorts.
Oh, nice. The pink ones, pink and white?
Yes, pink and white, the blue and white.
Like light purple.
Yeah,
I remember those.
For
so
sure.
90s.
Oh my God. So embarrassing. I really don't want to ever show the photo of me from elementary school. It's so embarrassing. But you know what's okay, glow up. Not just physically, but, you know, internally. Well, I think I'm really grateful that I learned to unlearn that like really bad habit because I don't know. I think in high school you just really want to fit in, and if that's what people are talking about, you also want to have something to say or be a part of the conversation, and that was just really not good.
Yeah. I get it. Well,
and I'm ashamed of it. But you know what? I'm proud to say I'm no longer like that. Yeah.
We learn, right?
I think it just also goes to show that you can grow. And that what happened in the past can't be held against you. Whether people are going to try to hold it against you. Yeah. People are going to dig up stuff and hold it against you. But if you know in your heart that you worked on it and you grew out of it and that you're proud of where you are at now, then that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Your past is your past. Yeah.
Growing up, I was very nice.
Yeah.
I was known as the funny little fat nice kid.
I mean, you're still that.
Just bigger.
Yeah. Well, let's go back again.
Okay. Go back.
Go back to acknowledging our progress. You went from being paralyzed for a year to where you are now, and let's acknowledge that. Round of applause.
I look good too.
Nate came in earlier today, and what did you say?
I don't remember.
You went,
I'm very impulsive.
Earlier I was looking in the mirror. What did you say? Tell them.
I was looking in the mirror and I was like, damn, I look good.
He told me, he went, I'm really not that fat.
I'm not that. I'm actually pretty good looking.
I think that's the energy we need to all keep.
Confidence.
I mean, I think through it all, we're all just struggling with insecurities at the end of the day. And, you know, that's not to say that you're not doing well or a good person if you have insecurities, as long as you're not projecting it on other people, because we don't do that. Okay.
It's called gaslighting.
That's not gaslighting. I mean, you can also gaslight due to insecurities.
I think it's called gaslighting.
It's called gaslighting. Okay, I'm sorry. My bad.
Not me gaslighting.
So out of all the hardships that, you know, we've encountered up until today, what are some lessons that you've learned? Yeah, that you want to share with everybody, or that you're really proud of that you've learned, or yeah.
So something that I've learned with these hardships is, like we said earlier, it's not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're able to get through that, you have a good support system, it's going to be good. It's going to be all right. I don't know. What about you, Sunny?
For me, I have a few.
Okay.
Mottos.
Yes. What do you mean?
So one is, don't take a shit and sit in it.
Oh, what?
Because why would you do that? Think about it. So if you poop, why would you sit in it? And for me, that means, a lot of people are going to be confused. Let me explain. For me, that means if you're handed something bad, right? Why would you go and sit in it forever? You know, like wallowing in your bad situation. I think that it's a good analogy for a lot of things, because I think for me, back when I was going through a lot of hard times, I would just sit there and whine about it instead of get up and do something about it. Like, be your own hero, right? And a lot of times you're not going to know exactly what to do because you're going through it for the first time. So if you're sitting in a pile of poop, right?
Yeah.
Why would you continue to sit in it? Why would you not get up and be like, oh, what can I do?
This is gross.
Right. This is gross. Let's get out of it. What should I do? If, let's say, I didn't know what the best material was to be used to clean up poop, right? And I grabbed aluminum foil. Ooh, because
gross.
I thought that was the best solution, and I tried to clean it up with aluminum foil, and it just spread it everywhere and made it worse. I just learned from that. I go, oh, okay, aluminum foil is not the best material. Let me try napkins, right? And over time, you'll get to the best material to clean it up. And you just continuously learn. But I think a lot of times we just sit in it. You're not doing anything about it. You're just whining, basically.
Complaining about
the situation to everybody, trauma dumping, instead of really making that effort to get up and go through the trials and errors of figuring out what the best solution is.
I think that's what I struggle with, is identifying what my underlying issue is. Being able to like step back and figure out what is causing that problem. I feel like it's difficult for me. What do you recommend for me to do?
Can you repeat that question?
So I struggle with identifying what my issues is. I bottle them up and I forget about them.
Yeah.
And I just push them away until they come back up unexpectedly.
And you don't know what to do.
And I don't know what to do.
Well, I would say that I'm not a stranger to that. I was on antidepressants for a while, and that suppressed my emotions for a very long time. They suppressed everything because it was trying to balance my emotions, it ultimately made me very flat. Because it was trying to eliminate the lows, it also eliminated the highs. And so I was very emotionless, and I no longer felt emotions at all.
Like a robot.
Yeah, I was a walking robot. And my friends who knew me at the time found me very scary because I was a very emotionless person and I just didn't care for much. And when I went off of them, I decided to, not even decided to, I was forced to now deal with these emotions that I hadn't felt in a very long time. And I think it really points to what you were saying about it coming back all at once. And what helped me during that time was kind of similar to you relearning how to walk, was relearning how to identify emotions. It was very interesting. It was learning it again. I could identify if I felt bad or good, but I couldn't identify if I was feeling angry, like upset, jealous.
Like all other emotions.
The little subfields of emotions. I didn't know which was which. And I think that once I started taking the time, I actually downloaded this little emotions wheel where it starts in the middle. It's kind of like a color wheel. And so it starts in the middle as good and bad, and then it goes into the different emotions that are incorporated in each section. And it would lead to a very detailed emotion at the outside of the wheel.
Do you remember what the app is called?
It was an app. You can Google it. Just Google emotion wheel.
Emotion
wheel. And it helped me
fun.
identify what emotions I was feeling. Over time, through practice, like I mentioned earlier with resiliency, it's like a muscle. You just, over time, it gets stronger and you learn how to do it. So I would say that's a first step, is learning how to identify anything, right? I think instead of pushing it away and not talking about it or not dealing with it, you can first internally try to identify what's going on with you, and you have a support system.
And
you
also
can talk about it.
Like take it step by step.
Yeah, make it more manageable.
Because I feel like sometimes I look at the whole picture, like the whole problem.
Yeah.
And I can't like piece it.
Right. You can't. You get overwhelmed by it.
I get overwhelmed
Yeah.
like a fat kid at home. What is it? Hometown buffet with a plate of food. That was me.
Were you a regular at Hometown Buffet?
I was. I knew where everything was.
Was this your bad coping skill in play?
It was. Yeah. It's just food tastes good.
Food is really good. I like it.
So anyways.
I like food a lot. Anyways.
Back to our issues.
Yeah, so the color wheel, the emotion wheel was really great. I thought that was very helpful for me. And like you said, breaking things up into small pieces. I think that's super important, given, I also have a lot of things that I'm trying to get done every day. And if I look at everything I need to do at once, game over. It's 10 tons of weight on me. I'm ready to lay on the floor and quit it all. And that sends me to a spiral where I go, I can't do it all, so I need to die. And it gets down a really, really bad path of bad thoughts. So if I make it more manageable, right, and I look at it step by step, let me start off with doing the dishes and then do this assignment. I kind of build up to it. I kind of start with the smaller tasks.
So gain like the momentum.
Yeah, I start with the smaller tasks, and then over time, like I want to keep checking those boxes off on the list. So it just starts me on a good path, because if I don't, like I said, I'll go, oh my God, I have so much to do. Oh my God, I don't know what to prioritize. No, I can't just pick one. And then I go, because I can't quit, I just need to no longer be here on planet Earth. And that is a really bad place to go.
That is a no-no place.
It is a no-no place.
We do not want to be there.
Yeah. But hopefully I'm not the only one who goes through that. But yeah.
We're getting real vulnerable in this episode.
Yeah, a little bit. Getting a little heavy. I think it's also probably unnerving to people that we're saying this with smiles on our faces. I swear we're not psychopaths. We're just, we have also just healed already from a lot of those things. At least I have. And I've gone through it. Mm-hmm. And I'm at a point where I can talk about it and not get sent to a really dark place.
Yeah.
And I think that is another point for me where I am very proud of.
Being able to talk about it is very, it's a really big step.
Yeah.
I remember for years I didn't want to talk about like another issue that I've had, but we'll get to that in another episode.
I think what's most impressive about most people that I encounter is whenever they talk about their hardships, but instead of talking about it in a whiny type of way or trauma dump type of way, it's, hey, I went through this. This is what I did, and look at where I am. I think that's so inspiring, and that's something I really look up to, and that's what I want to be. And yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. But we're now nearing the end of our podcast, so we're going to do our mental health check-in.
Ooh, I'm excited for this.
So last week you were at a 8 out of 10?
I said 8 out of 10.
Yeah. And where are you this week?
I'm excited to say this week I am a 10 out of 10.
So we went up.
We went up.
That I was expecting for you to at least maintain it, but I think that's really impressive that
so
you got all the way
know
up.
why I'm at a 10 out of 10?
Why?
So I had this childhood friend, so as far back as I could remember. Mm-hmm. We've been friends forever. Mm-hmm. When we were in, this was like before I was even in my accident. We were like sophomore year.
Yeah.
She disappeared. She left.
Yeah.
She moved. I didn't hear from her.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah. I just didn't know what happened. I just didn't hear from her. We tried to get contact and nothing. Mm-hmm. So last week I got a Instagram notification that that person followed me and she found me, and like we got talking and like we were catching up.
The one time social media does what it should do.
Right.
Reconnect people.
We were reconnected, and it was a good time. And we spoke about like a lot of childhood memories. So very, very happy. What about you, Sunny?
I was at a 3 out of 10 last week, but I am happy to say that I'm at a 7 out of 10 this week. Yes, like you, had a lot of very meaningful quality social time.
Nice.
With family and friends, and that was really beneficial. I also implemented what I talked about last week, which was mindfulness, and I was really focusing on acknowledging my thoughts, but not labeling them as bad or good. So that was really helpful. You said that you were going to walk, right?
Yeah. I've kept walking.
You've kept it? Yeah.
I took a walk the other day.
Yeah.
Nice sunset. It was beautiful.
Seems like it's working.
It is working.
Yeah, I should
having a great
implement that.
time.
Yeah. Well, what are your coping mechanism or skills that you're going to implement this week?
So something to ease my anxiety is something that I'm going to stop doing is procrastinating.
Oh, okay. So part of the organization thing you were talking about earlier.
Part of the organization thing that I was talking about. So with procrastination, I tend to wait till the last second. Mm-hmm. I tend to do that a lot. And it just creates more anxiety and more like just stress. Yeah. And what I've been doing is I've been also like I said, writing tasks down, making sure I've been noting everything. And it's just been helping a lot.
I love that.
And I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah.
I need lots of work.
Well, you're on a good, past couple of weeks. So your ratings have been pretty high.
And another one is positive affirmation.
Yes.
So being able to look at myself in the mirror and
tell myself that
I'm doing great, that I'm beautiful.
It's awkward at first, no?
It is very awkward.
It's so awkward.
Have you ever actually looked at yourself in the eyes in the mirror and just like stared?
It was definitely hard at first. It's
like you gain consciousness.
Yeah, it's super weird. It's super weird. But it's good for you, honestly.
And I was reading that obviously talking good about yourself is going to open up like other pathways in your brain. It's going to open up memories of like good times.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know.
Yeah. Open up. Yeah. Good pathways in your brain.
I read it somewhere. Okay,
yeah. You read it somewhere.
Yeah, I read it somewhere. It's in there.
I think that really goes into the gratitude that I'm trying to implement this week, because gratitude is something that I think we all need to practice more. There was a few times where I was going through a hard time, and I decided to practice gratitude by, telling people that I was grateful for them and that I appreciate them, and that really, I think, strengthened my friendships with them, but also really helped with my mood. And there was actually a few studies that were done by some psychologists where they looked at people who practice gratitude by telling people or writing letters or just journaling or just thinking positive thoughts. And the study showed that these people actually went to the doctor a lot less. So, your mental state affects your physical state, and your physical state affects your mental state. So, combining all those things that we were just talking about, I think we're on the path for another good week. And hopefully you'll maintain the 10 and I can, be up there with you.
Hopefully I can maintain a 10. That's high standards.
That is high standards. It's okay if you don't maintain a 10. Honestly.
I want to be at least a 6.
Oh, at least a 6. If
I'm a 6, that's good.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works out for you this week. And yeah, that's the end of our second episode of Egg
and Bean Podcast.
Bye. Love you guys. Big hearts.
Bye.